Republicans laundering Russian disinformation again, the lies and vapor underneath the Hunter Biden put-up job.
The other thing that I think people also have to separate out is the idea of this possibly being stolen data. People have let it go unpassed. Their allegation that he legally owns this data and he had every right to send it to the president's lawyer. He was entrusted with this data from somebody, if indeed that's true, and he had this responsibility, and he's claiming, well, it was abandoned and therefore it's legally mine. And Delaware does have a statute about abandoned property, but there's a very specific time limit attached to that. My reading of the law is that there's a whole legal process that goes into the public record that you have to go to the court and explain to them why, prove that it's been abandoned, that you've done all the things you need to do to get it back to its rightful owner, and to be assured that there's not a lien on it and it's not involved in a divorce settlement of the original owner and all this other stuff, because, you know, it's property. And it gets more complicated about reporting it to the FBI. I mean, maybe you always have the obligation to do that, to actually go to law enforcement if you suspect a crime. But in terms of taking data that was entrusted to you for money and then turning it over to the president's personal lawyer during an election campaign, I mean, there are real legal questions about whether that was the hack and leak in itself, and maybe the Russians weren't even involved.
There are several key factors that you lay out in the article about why the whole context of this stank so much. One of them is that over 50 retired intelligence professionals signed a letter arguing that this entire setup looks to them, with their practiced professional eye, like a Russian disinformation campaign. This is, as you alluded to earlier, what Russia does. It's so classic. It's like a dead giveaway. Anything more you want to add to that? I mean, that this is the assessment of intelligence professionals?
It just had all the marks of a hack and leak operation. And Russia is so notorious for doing this, and they've had such success with doing it. And in the historical context of 2020, we were all living with the hangover of 2016, when they clearly did hack and leak the DNC.
They did that exact thing to us.
And it's illustrative when you actually look at the circumstances of the DNC. Like, what kind of cover stories do they use? Well, back in the day, they used the cover story of, oh, we're a collective of benevolent hackers and not the GRU at all.
So that's point number one. Point number two that you raise, and I had forgotten all of this if I'd ever heard it before, is that data from Hunter Biden's computer were already on the market for sale in Kyiv. These facts are not in dispute. Rudy Giuliani goes to try and dig dirt involving Ukraine and Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. He physically goes to Ukraine to try and do this. This data from the laptop is already for sale on the market in Kyiv. And lo and behold, it ends up in the hands of Rudy Giuliani, apparently through this weird Mac shop in Delaware. But what?
Yeah, it just absolutely stinks. And we also know that the top levels of the US intelligence community went to Trump and staged an intervention and said, hey, your boy, Rudy Giuliani, is off in Kyiv huddling with people. He keeps coming up on our intercepts of known Russian agents, talking dirt with them. And you should just assume that everything he brings back is tainted by Russian intelligence. And those same agencies are working with the top folks at Twitter because they know that social media is ground zero of Vladimir Putin's personally authorized election attacks. Like, social media is the battlefield, and so they're talking to the top people at all the social media platforms, saying, hey, this is what the word on the street is, this is what our sources are telling us, watch out for a Hunter Biden hack and leak.
And just fascinating detail here, again, previewing the future. By the time you listen to this, future time dwellers, this may be old hat because it will have been flogged by Republican hearings over and over again. What they're after is the Biden connection to Burisma, which is a Ukrainian energy company. And you just bring in this fascinating wrinkle that we know that Burisma was hacked by the Russian spy service in late 2019 at the exact same time. So again, just putting the data points together, every single piece of this in the chain of custody of this data, is it even worth calling it this, is compromised by Russian intelligence. And it's just an absolute steaming pile of Russian mess. We can't prove definitively that this was Russian disinformation, but boy, is it suspicious. Boy, does it look like it. And Any reporter, any journalistic operation, you have been an editor and a reporter, anyone with any shred of journalistic integrity or who worked for an American intelligence service would say, do not trust this. You've got to delouse this. This does not pass the smell test. Do not pass this on and feed into what is very likely a Russian disinformation campaign. So around October 2020, apparently fed up with the fact that the bomb that they wanted to go off was not going off in the way they wanted it to, Steve Bannon and Rudy Giuliani start trying to push this story and this whole laptop saga on the media. First of all, Fox News turns it down. Fox News, known for their journalistic integrity, says, no, this is patently untrustworthy. We cannot verify this. This does not meet our journalistic standards. Oh my gosh. This does not meet Fox News's journalists. I mean, we could just stop there. But then what happens, and correct me if I'm missing some of this, they go to the New York Post. You already alluded to the fact that they bragged that the New York Post, it's like Mikey, he'll eat anything, the old Life cereal campaign. The New York Post will print anything, except in this case, they wouldn't. The news division couldn't verify it. It didn't meet their journalistic standards. They turned it down. And so they shunted it over to the opinion section. Is that right?
Yes, and many of the reporters who were assigned it wouldn't put their names on it. That's how bad this thing was.
And so in the context of all of this, remembering that we fell victim to a Russian hack and leak operation in 2016, we knew that this had happened before. We knew from American intelligence services under Donald Trump that this was going to be attempted again by Vladimir Putin. No reputable journalists or editors or news organizations would take this story. It had all the fingerprints all over it of another Russian operation.